Hello, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. We got so much to talk about. It is insane, but that is nothing new. Shadeur Sanders and fake racism. I want to get into that in the NFL draft. I really think when this topic hits, when the opportunities to talk about and combat fake racism pop up, then I'm going to do it. So we'll talk about that. Also, what's happening on the border. And what Trump has been able to accomplish on the border, some of the new polls that are out. And I'm going to tell you those polls are somewhat rigged, so be careful of those. We'll get into the details. That isn't to say that Trump's polls are slightly lower than they have been, but there's a good reason for that, and there's a good reason to believe that they're going to bounce back. And I'm not saying that just because I want to kiss some booty. I'm saying that because I really believe it's factual. I'll break it down. Byron York of the Washington Examiner dug into some of these latest polls, and I want to share that information with you. So we'll be talking about Trump's first 100 days. We'll be talking about the borders, but let me start here. Shadour Sanders, fake racism. So here's the deal. Here's what you need to know. There's three types of racism. I've explained this before. All right. So there's real racism, there's fake racism, and there is perceived racism. Now, sadly, many people within our culture, many people in the sports, many sports analysts, they perceive racism where there is no racism. And that is the case with Shadour Sanders, who fell to the fifth round. He became the 144th pick. Let's stop pretending like Shadour Sanders is his father, Deion Sanders, one of the or the greatest cornerback that had played in the NFL. Deion Sanders used to play football, used to play basketball or baseball, just like Bo Jackson. Guys, that was unheard of. So we'll get into that. But I want you to understand this. The left, what they often do, they'll cry systemic racism. And the reason why they cry systemic racism is because I believe they need to justify their feelings of inadequacy. I believe this is what DEI has done. Everybody knows that it isn't racism. That is not the reason why Shadour Sanders fell to the fifth round, the 144th pick. For God's sakes, the majority of the first rounders were black. I mean, the vast majority of them were black. If I'm not mistaken, 69 out of the 72 first picks, 69 were black. So let's stop this nonsense and calling this racism because people don't fall where you think they should be able to fall. Let me just give you let me give you some of the quotes that are out there. Actually, I'll get to them momentarily. I was reading through a column, great column on at the Federalist, blaming Shadour Sanders' late draft selection on racism is as dumb as it gets. Also, there was a post. Now, where is this post? I just found this, and now I can't find it. But basically, how Shadour Sanders had sandbagged some of the interviews. He didn't want to talk to some of the coaches, some of the teams, some of the managers, some of the owners. Why would you do that? This is the problem. I believe a lot of people hyped Shadour Sanders up. And guys, listen, he's a great player. He's a great player. Is he a first round draft pick? Apparently not. Apparently not. But here's the thing. He's apparently a good kid, little cocky, but a good kid. And I think he's going to get his opportunity to shine. He's just going to have to continue to work hard to prove people wrong. So you have members of the sports media basically cried with unhinged indignation about the late selection of Shadour Sanders in this year's NFL draft. Sanders is the son of the Colorado Buffaloes head coach, Deion Sanders, which we already went through. And again, he was expected to go in the first round. He went in the fifth round, 144th pick overall. You had fellow college quarterbacks. You had Cam Ward. Oh, he's black. That's the number one pick. Jackson Dart, Tyler Show. But without missing a beat, what did the sports media do? Racism, racism, racism. And I think this is dangerous. I feel like the media, because they have nothing else to say, they don't know where else to go, at least when it comes to the left wing. And let's face it, unfortunately, a lot of sports media as well are very left wing or liberal leaning at best. That's just the way that it is. And they view a lot of things through the lens of race. That's the way that so many professionals were indoctrinated when they attended college. They were coddled. They were told that if someone slights them, it's not because they don't have the ability. It's because of their skin color. And that's just utter nonsense. I don't understand why people don't get offended by this. I don't understand why every single time something happens when it comes to something negative happens with a black person, it's racism. Now, sometimes real racism does exist. This situation with Shadour Sanders is certainly not one of them. He's going to get the opportunity to compete for the Cleveland Browns, although they got a lot of quarterbacks, but he's going to get the opportunity to compete. And from what I understand, he's the best player, the best quarterback likely that the Cleveland Browns have. Now, the Cleveland Browns didn't necessarily agree with that because they drafted someone in the third round, but they thought that Shadeur Sanders was a great pick for the fifth round. And so they decided to go ahead and get them. So you got a league in the NFL that is predominantly comprised of black players. They get paid millions of dollars to play the game of football. And guys, listen, I'm not mad at them. I love watching me some NFL football. I'm happy that these guys are able to go out and make a great living doing something that, frankly, we all enjoy watching. We all love sitting around the tube. Well, maybe not everybody in the listening audience, but I would suspect a good portion of you that listen to this show, if not the majority of you that listen to this show, enjoy some NFL football. I certainly do. I turned it off for several years while all that Colin Kaepernick nonsense was going on, and they had hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter, all that kind of nonsense on the field, on the helmet. I didn't want to deal with any of that stuff. When I watch football, when I watch any sports activity, I watch it as an escape. I don't want to think about politics at that point in time. I want to think about if my team is going to kick the booty of the other team. Otherwise, I'm going to get sad and I'm going to get depressed. All right, at least for a couple of hours, and then I'll snap out of it and I'll look forward to the next weekend. That's the way the football season rolls. But what I love about sports is sports brings people together despite ethnicity, despite socioeconomic class. It does not matter. Sports brings people together. Yet you have a bunch of these jerk wagons that oftentimes will just bring race into the make it an issue where race simply does not exist. And any sports analyst, these analysts, they know better. I mean, they watch sports night and day. They eat, sleep, drink sports. They know better. I got a feeling that the reason why Shadour Sanders, while so many of them are crying out loud, it's just virtue signaling in a sense. It's trying to make sure that they appease a larger black audience. They're trying to make sure that they even appease Deion Sanders in some way, shape, or form. Man, I was for your son. But maybe Deion Sanders' son isn't as good as people say. I mean, maybe there's a reason that Deion Sanders was constantly trying to sell his son. I was listening to him talk about Cam Ward and listen to him talk about his son, and they should definitely go 1 and 2. There's no reason why they shouldn't go 1 and 2 in the draft. Who's Deion Sanders to say that? Well, he's a coach. He's been an NFL player. You weren't an NFL player. No, I wasn't. But I know Deion Sanders isn't an NFL owner. Maybe they just didn't think his son was good enough, or maybe they didn't think it was worth picking him if he was going to be potentially a backup quarterback, just simply not worth the drama. All right, so in a video reacting to Sanders' late round selection, Skip Bayless, you guys know Skip Bayless, suggested that the collective decision by so many teams to pass on the former Buffalo's quarterback early in the draft, quote, smells of racist undertones of too many white people in charge in this league who just roll their eyes at both father and son at Colorado, close quote. Now, Skip Bayless is an older white guy. So Skip, if the league was all black, I mean, just like predominantly black with black owners, and they skipped out on white players, would you be saying the same thing? I almost feel like this is a way for these white liberals to stay down with the struggle, to pretend like they're down. It's so weird. So he said, so if it's not football, what is it? Are there racial undertones here? Racist undertones? You be the judge. Racism is so hard to sort of grasp and prove, but it just stinks. It smells of racist undertones. No, it's not hard, Skip. It's really not hard. If somebody says, I didn't pick I didn't pick Shadeur Sanders because he's a black. They're probably racist, right? But when you have a Mike Tomlin, right, of the Pittsburgh Steelers that doesn't pick him, when you have who's the what is it, a black general manager of the a black general manager of the Cleveland Browns that skipped over him a couple of times, apparently finally picked him in the 5th round. Is he racist? I mean, this is absolute nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. Guys, listen, man. Just accept the fact that perhaps Shadour Sanders landed exactly where he should have landed. And that's in the 5th round, the 144th pick. He's going to be able to prove himself. And I frankly hope he does well. I want the best for the kid. But what I don't want is for a bunch of woke white liberals and black racists to say, this is racism, when it's definitely not racism. He's just not as good as you've been saying. Okay, so let me just do this. Let me go back to this racism issue real quick. All right, so this is one of these things that really frustrates me, and I don't mind speaking on it. Again, fake racism, real racism, perceived racism. This is what you would call perceived racism, but this is actually fake racism. Perceived racism is what Skip Bayless, I guess, pretends or alleges that he believes that there's some racial undertone. So there's some perceived racism. I don't know how Skip Bayless could come to the conclusion that there's any level of racism when predominantly the players that are in the NFL are black, and the vast majority of players that were picked in the 1st and 2nd round were black. I don't know how you arrive at that conclusion, except that you want to arrive at that conclusion. You choose to arrive at that conclusion, and you want some accolades. You want some attaboys. You want somebody to pat you on the back. You want some black men that you hang around with in those studios to say, oh, man, Skip is down, right? Because you're looking at accolades from men. You want accolades from men rather than accolades from God. I mean, this is just really simple. This is really simple. 2nd and 3rd draft rounds closed on Friday night. Everybody, I was listening to it on radio when I didn't see it. I enjoy watching the draft. It's one of those things for whatever reason. I enjoy seeing and hearing these young men, hearing their stories, hearing where they came from, what they came up from. And sometimes it's harsh conditions. Sometimes it's not so harsh conditions. But when anybody reaches that level of success, and I'm not just talking about monetarily. I mean, these kids have to go through God knows what to get to the NFL. Obviously, it's not easy. Otherwise, a lot more of us would be playing. So these guys have a special skill. It may be physical, but it's a special skill. And there is a lot of thinking involved, especially on the coaching level, obviously in the quarterback level. But I would suggest front line, defensive line, virtually any level. I mean, you've got to be able to think quickly. You got to be able to think on your toes, and you got to be strong. You got to be fast. You got to be agile. And these guys lay it all on the line, and we enjoy watching it. So I love hearing the stories. I love seeing these young men succeed and knowing that they are going to, if they don't blow all their money, and sadly the vast majority of them will, but if they don't blow all of their money, I mean, this is going to change their lives for the rest of their lives. So hopefully they won't be in complete love with money, but hopefully they'll use their money for some good, obviously to bless their families, to bless the kingdom of God, I would hope. Obviously, that's not always going to be the case, but this is absolutely insane. Here's some more stuff. Stephen A. Smith went as far as to compare Sanders' situation to Colin Kaepernick's, the disgraced former San Francisco 49. That's when I stopped watching. I can't stand Colin Kaepernick. Everybody knows that guy was a fake and a fraud, and he figured out how a way to finagle millions of dollars out of Nike. I mean, just absolutely insane. The guy wasn't good enough to be quarterback anymore. Once they figured out his shtick, he was no longer good for the NFL. And he made it to the NFL. I think he took San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, to a Super Bowl or close to a Super Bowl while he was in. But by the next year, everybody had figured out his shtick, and it was over. They just knew how to chase him down and grab him. All right. But here's what Stephen A. Smith said. And this is why I go back and forth with Stephen A. Smith. I don't give him a lot of the credit that a lot of people give him because he's had this aha moment when it comes to politics. when it comes to conservatism. All of a sudden, and he says this is the damn disgrace. How in the hell is Shadeur not off the board, not drafted yet? Y'all still think this doesn't have anything to do with the teams hating on Deion Sanders? This kid is a first rounder. All right. Referencing his belief that NFL teams don't want to deal with Deion's overbearing presence. He says, in a different way, this is Kaepernick all over again, being kept out. A damn disgrace. I don't care what anyone says. And then Smith later shared an alleged message that he got from someone who supposedly claimed, quote, this feels like Kaepernick level collusion, close quote. And then Smith added, all the hard work the NFL league office puts in to eradicate these kinds of perceptions, only to turn around and watch as the owners look like they're colluding, messing up everything. Well, again, he said it himself. This is a perception, but this isn't the reality. And this is where Stephen Smith gets me, because he's really smart. I think he knows better. I think this is part of his shtick. I've watched Stephen A. Smith and listened to Stephen A. Smith talk and have conversations and interviews with Hannity and Mark Levin, not just recently, but over a decade. Over a decade. They're friends. And to draw some of the conclusions that he draws, knowing those guys, suggests to me that he has to make sure he secures and keeps his spot secure in the sports space. If you know what I mean. He's got to call this stuff out. He's got to call out the fake racism, pretend like it's real. Pretend like he's down with the struggle. I really do believe that. Because there's no way. That guy is really intelligent. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it. But this makes no sense whatsoever. Listen, even if the owners did collude, and I don't believe that for a second, but even if they did, so what? So what? And don't tell me, oh, he's a slave, because there's a lot of us that would love to make that type of slave money. I think even the bottom of the barrel, the last picks, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the minimum salary is over $800,000 at this point. So please spare me the nonsense. Comparing this to slavery. Like happened, Colin Kaepernick did back in the day, and like LeBron James did with these professional athletes at one point. I can't remember if he was talking about the NBA or NFL. And then you guys remember Jamal Bowman, the former squad member representative of New York. He said, what did he say? He said Sanders wasn't selected early in the draft because he doesn't want to, quote, submit to y'all white S. What? He says, I take it personal when I see someone like Shadour Sanders, because he talks a certain way and because he wears gold chains and his pops is Deion and he don't want to submit to y'all white S. He's going to slip in that draft. And you're telling me it's based on the evaluation, like you didn't watch the games and watch him play and see him play. It's crazy. But this is insane. This is insane. Again, Mike Tomlin passed on him. Again, Cleveland Browns with I believe a black general manager passed on him. Again, most of the first round picks in this year's drafts were black. I went and looked at the list of the players. And then again, Mike Tomlin passed on him. And then maybe they didn't want to deal with Deion Sanders, but they would deal with Deion Sanders if they thought Shadour Sanders was worth it. I mean, it's really simple as that. You got a Browns general manager. Yeah, here it is. Andrew Berry, who ultimately selected Sanders. He's black. I mean, this makes no sense whatsoever. Says here, do deluded commentators like Bayless believe that Berry's decision to draft former Oregon Ducks quarterback Dylan Gabriel 2 rounds before choosing Sanders had racist undertones? And then the media manufacturer narrative that Sanders possessed the caliber of a first-round pick was completely overblown. So let me just share something with you. Sanders didn't crack the top 10 in quarterback ratings. Did you know that? He didn't the top 10. And this wasn't a great quarterback class, or not the greatest anyway. So he didn't crack the top 10 in quarterback ratings. He finished 16th behind the quarterbacks that he was drafted behind. He finished 16th behind Ward, Gabriel, and Dart. Colorado also didn't play the same level of competition. Guys, and that happens. That happens. These guys go, Gabriel played where? At Oregon. You had Dart that played at Ole Miss. They're just playing a better level of talent. And then you get the reports that Sanders alleged unprofessional conduct while interviewing with NFL teams prior to the draft. One NFL assistant coach allegedly said of his interactions with Sanders, quote, "The worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is he's not that good." And so that's what a lot of the NFL people said and saw. Otherwise, he would have went higher. I hate this perpetuating racism where it doesn't exist. Man, I just want to live in harmony with people. I realize that there are some times where you got to call out real racism. But if we're going to constantly do this boy that cries wolf stuff, who's going to take people seriously? I can't take any of these guys seriously when it comes to the issue of racism because they blew up Colin Kaepernick. They're blowing up Shadeur Sanders. I wish Shadour Sanders the best. I really wish him well. I think he's going to get in there. He's going to fight. He's going to grind. And perhaps one day he will be a starter in the NFL. But right now, he's not there. He's not there. Otherwise, somebody besides the Cleveland Browns would have picked him in the 5th round. All right. We'll be back. Trump's first 100 days, the border. Let me talk to you about MyPillow. MyPillow is excited to announce that they are extending the mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. This is your chance to grab incredible deals on some of MyPillow's most popular and newly released items. For example, you can save $40 on the new spring MyPillow bed sheets. They're available in any size and any color. These luxurious sheets are designed for maximum comfort and breathability. They're perfect for a great night's sleep. Man, whew. I could use those. Looking for a meaningful gift? You can also save 30% on the brand new Mike crosses that are inspired by the one that Mike has worn every day for over 20 years. These beautifully crafted crosses come in both men's and women's designs. They're proudly made in the USA. Get the 6-piece bath or kitchen towel sets for just $39.98. Initial quantities are extremely limited, so please do not wait. And don't forget the best-selling standard MyPillow is now just $17.98. Plus orders over $75 ship for free. Go to mypillow.com. Use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L. I don't spell it like the communists. Or call 800-858-0263. Again, 800-858-0263. Or go to mypillow.com. Use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L. All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. Again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. All things social media at Carl Jackson Show. At the Carl Jackson Show is where you can go to find me. So we've just dealt with Shadeur Sanders and fake racism. But here's the story that I want to get to, and I want to give you some breakdowns. I want to talk about Trump's first 100 days, but I'm not going to go everywhere with this. Let's talk about the border. And here's what I want to do. I want to go to the very first video clip. Mr. Cassiano. And let's talk about this situation that occurred in Colorado Springs. This is cut number 1, where we literally saw, something happened here. Where we literally saw, this is, forgive me guys, live TV here. All right. So this is cut number 1. If we could go ahead and play it, Gabe. I'm going to work on the malfunction that I see happening. I can't believe this is happening, but it is. Something just happened.
Good morning. John Pullen with DEA and the Rocky Mountain Division. We're here on the scene of an underground nightclub where over 300 federal law enforcement, along with our local partners from El Paso County and Colorado Springs PD, executed an enforcement operation this morning. It's a drug investigation. We seized quite a number of guns and took a number of people into custody. I think what I'd like for people to know as a result of this operation is that Colorado Springs is waking up to a safer community today.
Jonathan, give us some perspective here. 300 law enforcement officers. What brought about this kind of requirement, this kind of need to be here with that show of force?
So this is an underground illegal nightclub, okay? And what was happening inside was significant drug trafficking, prostitution, crimes of violence. We seized a number of guns in there. We had active duty service members who were running security at the club and involved in some of these crimes. And in fact, we had over 100 illegal aliens inside as well, and those over 100 illegal aliens were taken into custody by ICE.
Active duty service members helping as security here. Can you elaborate on that at all?
So it's an ongoing investigation, but we had over a dozen active duty service members in the club tonight, either as patrons or working as armed security.
How many of those were detained, and what are they facing right now?
So Army CID was one of our partners out here, and they're going to work with us on what the next steps for those active duty service members looks like.
You mentioned that this is a drug trafficking operation. Can you elaborate on any drugs you found, the amount, any charges you anticipate that could come out of tonight?
So as you may suspect, when the cops showed up at the door, most of the drugs hit the floor. And we did find cocaine. It looks like some pink cocaine or the Tusi. And there was a little bit of other drugs, but we haven't had time to test everything. But there were dozens of small packages of drugs that they've recovered so far that I have personally seen.
How we got some help to this location?
This has been a long-term investigation by DEA and a number of our federal partners. And so we've been working on this underground nightclub for a number of months, doing undercover, surveillance, a lot of other work to identify what's going on here. And again, months-long information about drug trafficking and prostitution happening inside.
All right. So that's Colorado Springs. All right. And guys, I've got so many other tidbits that I'm going to share with you that's popping in the news. But all right, when you think of Trump's first 100 days, and obviously there's some polling out that suggests, oh, Trump is falling in the polls, Trump is falling in the polls, and they're trying to shape the news rather than report the truth. Now, that isn't to say there has been a slight dip in Trump's poll numbers, but I'll break that down momentarily. But I do want to go through this. I want you to understand what's been happening. Obviously, you had this judge, what was her name? Judge Dugan. That you guys remember that I brought this news to you last week, or on Thursday or Friday of last week, I believe it was, where you had a judge in Wisconsin, a judge by the name of Dugan. At least that was her last name. I believe it was Hannah Dugan, if I'm not mistaken, literally helped an illegal alien escape or evade ICE arrest. Turns out this guy as well happened to be a violent criminal. A wife beater of sorts. It's absolutely insane. This woman got so frustrated that ICE was in her courtroom to make an arrest on this guy that she literally instructed him and his attorney to use like backdoor access to try to get away from the cops. 22 minutes later, the illegal alien was found. She was arrested, and now you've got protests in Wisconsin because apparently they believe that this judge is above the law. And that's absolutely insane. Guys, we have seen a record number. Actually, we're witnessing history. Let me go to, I'm going to give you some stats momentarily, and I'm going to opine on the video that you just watched. Byron York of the Washington Examiner writes this, and this is before I'll go. This is at the very end of his column, but he says, has any other president solved one of the nation's top problems as identified by voters in the campaign in literally his first weeks in office? If it has happened, he writes, it's pretty rare. So go back to the headlines. Historically unpopular, quote unquote, is what he writes. Lowest 100-day score in 80 years, quote unquote. 39% approval, quote unquote. Do they accurately convey Trump's presidency so far? Let's just say they don't tell the whole story. And I'll go back and I'll break down these numbers, but let me tell you why this is so important. What you just witnessed in that video with that DEA, the head of the, I believe he's the head of the DEA, But anyway, DEA agent describing what took place in that underground club in Colorado. So again, you had the gangsters, you had TDA, you had U.S. servicemen on security, and some in the club. Prostitution, drugs, 100 illegals at least. So now they don't have to go home, but they got to get the hell up out of here. And that is a good thing. That is a good thing. See, this is going into blue territory. This is Jared Polis. Jared Polis runs Colorado. Colorado has turned into a mountain high California, and it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, one of the most beautiful states you can imagine. I mean, I remember visiting there when my buddy lived there, and I'm talking about it was so scenic. It just absolutely gorgeous. Just absolutely gorgeous. But now the lefties are tearing it up. Here's a story from the Populist. FBI, Venezuela likely uses TDA, Tren de Aragua, as a proxy to undermine the U.S. So the FBI has made public unclassified portions of its classified intelligence assessment, which found that the deadly Venezuelan TDA gang is probably a government proxy working to undermine the safety of Americans. These are some of the people that we've let into the Biden administration and the auto pen let inside of the United States of America unchecked. And here they are at an underground club. The assessment stated that Venezuelan government officials likely facilitate the migration of the TDA gang members into the U.S. to achieve their objectives. Immediately after taking office, Trump classified foreign gangs, including TDA as MS-13, as foreign terrorist organizations. He also had described the illegal immigration crisis as a foreign invasion and invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to facilitate the removal of foreign citizens from the country. Oh, and by the way, that Kilmar Abrego Garcia act that the Democrats were putting on didn't work out so well for them. The news is coming out that people did not like them sticking up for a wife beater and an MS-13 gang member. So therefore, you had Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries sitting on the Capitol steps. What was that, yesterday for 10 hours? Absolutely insane. I don't even want to waste your time. I got video of that. It's such a waste of time. This is all political theater. And guys, they're going to keep doubling down on stupid. If they failed at the Kilmar Abrego Garcia story, you know what they'll do? They'll go to the next story, because for them, it's about dragging down Trump's poll numbers to try to make it a reality, to try to make them a reality. And I'll break that down in a second. But I want you to understand this, even before I go beyond Tren de, or go further into this article about Tren de Aragua. Think about Trump's first 100 days. This guy is doing stuff that we've been asking for, but that we've been desirous of. Now, he threw us off with the tariffs a little bit, right? And he had mentioned tariffs. I don't think anybody honestly expected that we would be in the trade wars with these other countries. However, I am confident that in the end, this is going to work out well for us and for our allies and for our friends. All right. But I just want you to think about this. Just think about some of the ways that illegal immigration impacts you, impacts your kids. Think about schooling. You want your kid to have more one-on-one time with the teacher, or at least the teacher to be able to pay attention to your kid. Well, not if the schools are overcrowded. And then you're going to have teachers, instead of speaking English, they're going to have to be bilingual teachers. That's going to cut some people out. That's going to make it harder for your child. I'm sorry, this is America. Middle-class jobs. You want illegal aliens competing for middle-class jobs for American citizens? Actually, it's not just skill. It's not just lower level jobs. It's middle-class jobs as well that a lot of illegal immigration hurts. And I'll explain that momentarily. ERs, visits to the ER, crime, housing, illegal immigrants are competing in all of these areas. I'll explain when I get back. You're listening to the Carl Jackson Show. All right, so let's get back to this. Let's get to the borders. Trump's first 100 days, the borders. So we're talking about TDA. Now we're learning that TDA is probably a government proxy. Basically, Venezuela, Maduro sending his gangsters not just to the United States, but around the world. So this is an invasion. This is like a military invasion. This is what Trump said during the campaign. Drugs, criminals, gang members, and terrorists are pouring into our country at record levels. We've never seen anything like it. They're taking over our cities, close quote. Oh, Trump is a racist. No, he's not a racist. He's a nationalist. And you're a nationalist too. I get so sick of these people. Oh, nationalism. It's such a bad thing. No. Even Jesus Christ was a national God. That's why there's a nation of Israel. It's like, as Americans, we're the only ones that should be embarrassed to say that we're nationalists. That doesn't mean that we're punks. It doesn't mean that we're superior. It doesn't mean that we should think like we're superior. It just means that we should do things to protect America's interest. Otherwise, guess what? We'll collapse. I mean, it's really that simple. It's really that simple. Look at the UK with their mass immigration. And now basically you've got city after city after city in the UK that's literally ran by Muslims. It's insane. It's insane. So if we don't want that to happen here, we need to teach American history. We need to teach civics. We need to learn to appreciate this country that God has given us and realize how blessed we are to be here. I talked about some of the ways in which illegal immigration hurts us. The Center for Immigration Studies does CIS.org, I believe is the website, talks about this stuff all the time. But think about the impact that illegal alien kids, and guys, I understand people want to come here for a better life. I have no problem with that. They have to do it legally. Oh, Carl, well, we're a nation of immigrants, so we should be open to all. No, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We're not a nation of immigrants. There's no such nation that exists. There's no such thing as a nation of immigrants. Just think about that. We're a nation of citizens. When you go to Mexico, what do they have? They have citizens. When you go to Canada, what do they have? They have citizens. You go to the UK, what do they have? They have citizens. You go to Jamaica, what do they have? They have citizens. I mean, I realize it's an island, but you know what I'm saying? You get the point. This is just a bunch of left-wing jargon. We're a nation of immigrants. No, immigrants may have come here to become citizens of the United States of America. And we should never dilute that and water it down. Illegal aliens should not be able to compete for jobs, whether it's low-skilled jobs or middle-class jobs. Yes, in construction industry, so on, etc. They should not be able to compete with American citizens and keep wages down, because if you can pay illegals less money, you think Americans are going to be able to get more money? No, of course not. Of course not. Will they pay their tax? I don't care. I don't care. We have to pay more, whether it's infrastructure. We have to pay more, whether it's crime, whether it's rent. Because now we have to compete with rent for illegal aliens. Now, if you're rich, you don't have to worry about this, right? Because you can afford to buy your way away from the middle class, away from the poor. But if you're a blue-collar worker, if you're a low-skilled worker, you can't do that. What about crime? What about crime? Now, obviously, crime has come to a city near you with some of these illegals. We've seen it hit universities. Sadly, Laken Riley, Rachel Marin. Now, that wasn't a university case, but you get the point. But that's crime that shouldn't happen. What about the ERs? What about when your doctors are not necessarily your doctors because we don't own them, but in your community, the hospital in your community is so busy servicing illegals that they can't service you? And it isn't that I don't want them to get health care. The point is they shouldn't be there. And now we learn what Maduro is doing. I want to play you another video clip. This is, where is it at here? This is Tom Homan. If we could go to cut number, if I could scroll up, cut number 4. This is Tom Homan that makes an appearance at the White House at a presser. Here's what he had to say about President Trump's first 100 days. Let's roll clip number 4, please, Gabe.
As far as the judges, look, we just arrested a judge, Pambani, for impeding ICE enforcement removals. I said from day one, you don't have to support ICE's operations. You can support sanctuary cities if that's what you desire to do. Sanctuary cities can stand aside and watch ICE keep their communities safe. Because any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of communities. And ICE has been clear, we're targeting public safety threats and national security threats. I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us. But I said from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, and I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted.
Amen.
Judge or not. And as far as releasing so many people, you know why the Biden administration released millions of people in the United States? No one ever talks about it. I'll talk about it. Why did they release people into the interior of the United States and put them, rather than put them into an ice bed? Why not put them in an empty ice bed at $127 a night rather than in a hotel room at $500 a night? They did it on purpose. Because when you put them in an ICE detention bed, they get a hearing in 35 days. Court records show 9 out of 10 people claim asylum, get order removal, they're gone. But if you release them and put them in a hotel room at $500 a night, their hearings can be 5, 7, 9 years if you pull out all appeals. And what are they hoping for then? That another Democrat administration is in power. They can award an amnesty to millions. This is about selling this country off for future political power. That's what it was. The law clearly says if you arrive at our border without proper documentation, you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, shall. And that's what President Trump's doing. Catch and release is over. That's what the law says, and that's what we've done.
Amen. Amen. But notice what he said. You heard what the man said. You can release these illegals into the interior. They've got to get a court hearing at that point, right? They can drag this thing out. They can be here forever, and they'll probably never leave. And that's what the left wants. Why would they dig down on Kilmore, Abrego, Garcia, despite the fact that it was hurting them? Because that's their future constituent, or at least they hope so. And so they just figure, listen, we're just going to show these people that we're for them. We're going to create all this noise. Liberals are going to show up. They're going to scare these weak, feckless Republicans that talk a good game and do absolutely nothing when they get into office because, they'll turn on Trump. They'll run against him instead of implementing his agenda when it comes to the border policy. It's insane. Getting back to Venezuela. Other countries that the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro, likely uses the Tren de Aragua gang to destabilize include Chile, Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia. The FBI expects the operation to spread across South America. And so they're in here. You saw the video. They're in the interior of the United States of America, Colorado. They were taking over apartment complexes. They spread through, I think it's 16 cities. Tren de Aragua gang members have been found in as of now. And they're sent here to be soldiers for Venezuela and to take over wherever they're at. And now we've got people that are Americans, soldiers, servicemen, working for them. How many Americans are bought off? We got to get these people out of here. The FBI also warns that in the next 18 months, Maduro will use the gang to intimidate, abduct, and kill Venezuelans in the United States who are critical of his government. These findings should shock Americans, but not law enforcement community. This is according to Fox News Digital. They reflect the sentiments of numerous other intelligence assessments across multiple agencies. This dude is trying to act like he's Xi Jinping. Similarly, an office of the Director of National Intelligence official also told Fox that the TDA gang benefits from the situation in Venezuela. He also disclosed that the government gives sanctuary to TDA members and welcomes them back from the United States, likely to be deployed elsewhere across the region. Maduro agreed to accept Venezuela's, ironically, deported from the United States, who initially mostly consisted of violent criminals and gang members. Why? Meanwhile, Trump officials have vowed to use every tool in their arsenal to remove members of the violent Venezuelan gang from the country despite mounting legal challenges. Guys, I'm going to do one more block after this because I got to get into these poll numbers. I want you to understand. What did you say? I want you to understand that the reason why these polls are being created is because Trump is damaging the left-wing brand. He's damaging the left-wing brand. And so they've got to try to damage his brand. It's almost a war between the brands, if you will. And I'll explain that when we get back. This is the Carl Jackson Show. We will be back momentarily. All right, guys, welcome again to the Carl Jackson Show. Just a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. And also, please, X, Instagram, and Facebook is where you can find me at Carl Jackson Show. At The Carl Jackson Show is where you can go to find me. All right, so welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. Again, we're talking about Trump's first 100 days, and I'm focusing on the border. There is more news out there. Obviously, you have the meeting with the world leaders that attended Pope Francis' funeral. You saw Vladimir Zelensky sit down with President Trump. Macron tried to get in on the conversation. Trump was like, no, not going to happen. And apparently they had great conversation between Zelensky and Trump. So that's some of the news that broke. And now you can see and hear that Trump is getting frustrated with Vladimir Putin. So that's one story. You guys may have heard the story about a man driving into a crowd of pedestrians during a festival that killed 11 people. I believe that number remains the same. 30-year-old man allegedly killed at least 11 people after driving an SUV through the crowd during the Lapu Day Block party in Vancouver, British Columbia. On Saturday night, the incident occurred shortly after 8 p.m. Apparently, that man had been in and out of jail several times. Seriously violent, serious mental conditions. And yet in Canada, they let him out. Almost like our sanctuary cities here, almost like our soft on crime DAs that we have here. Large scale ICE operation in Florida as well seized close to 800 illegals arrested. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement worked with Florida. This according to the National Review. Law enforcement to arrest nearly 800 illegal immigrants over the course of 4 days. The arrest came during the first 4 days of Operation Tidal Wave, a multi-agency immigration enforcement crackdown still ongoing. Of the 780 arrests, 275 were arrested with final order removals. But they were still in. Those arrested include Jose Sanchez Reyes, a convicted murderer from Colombia. Oh, that's nice. Rafael Juarez Cabrera, alleged MS-13 gang members, and alleged 18th Street gang members such as Aaron Isaac Morazan Izagar. Now, 18th Street gang members, back in when I lived in LA, that was a scary bunch. That was a scary bunch. All right. And of course, you got this judge, Hannah Dugan, that was arrested, Wisconsin Circuit Court judge, for trying to help an illegal escape. This is insane. California legislators are killing a bill to allow property owners to remove squatters because in California, things get worse. Okay, now let me get back to this. Let's play a video clip real quick, Gabe. Let's go to video clip number 5. And again, we're talking about Trump's first 100 days. The border is where we're focused. And I'll get to you on this poll that has come out. Trump is down 39%. Worst poll in 80 years. I'm going to break that down because it's not as scary as you think. But I will say this. I do think we need to be on the rush to get these deals, these tariff deals done, these trade deals done, so we can start focusing on deregulation and get these permanent tax cuts. GOP are working on a bill this week. We'll have to see what happens. Let's play video clip number 5, please, Gabe. That's a surprise. You gotta give it to these people. I love this. This is what I love about the Trump campaign. They fight, or Trump candidacy, the Trump White House. They fight back in ways that this is what needs to happen. Here, White House press corps, all these illegals that you should be talking about, look at what they've done. Rape, murder. I can't see some of those without my glasses. But for the media to see rape, sexual assault of a child, rape, murder, sexual assault of a child, murder. These are the illegals that they're fighting for. All right, we can cut that. You get the point. A beautiful tactic, in my opinion, by the Trump administration. Trump administrations have also vowed to use every tool in their arsenal to remove these Venezuelan gang members, despite the fact that the Supreme Court recently halted the removal of Venezuelan TDA gang members. Now, I understand they may be frustrated with the way that Trump is doing things. Guys, I hope to God, and I say this in all sincerity, I hope that these Supreme Court justices, or anyone for that matter, find themselves the victims of some of these illegals that are extremely violent. The Supreme Court needs to step up to the plate. Whatever, instruct the president on whatever, as quickly as he can get these illegals out of here, he needs to get them out of here. So how about helping him do it? If you guys are upset with him, help him do it the right way. And let's get these people out, because we cannot do it at the pace that we're going now. It simply won't happen. You got 20 million people that were able to come here, 10, 15, 20, who knows, millions of people that were able to come here under Joe Biden. And yet, and nobody said a peep. These circuit judges, these district judges, nothing. Supreme Court, nothing. But now that we want to get them out, oh, they got something to say. This is so frustrating beyond belief. Okay, now let me get to this poll, because it's very important that you understand what's going on. And this poll, in my opinion, is being created. Trump's first 100 days. All you have to do is think of Doge. We'll get into Doge. We'll get into the economy tomorrow, because that'll be the theme of Trump's first 100 days. But Byron York of the Washington Examiner writes this. Tomorrow marks the end of President Trump's first 100 days in office. Beginning on day 90 or so, we've seen a slew of polls and pronouncements delivering judgment on the president's performance. Quote, historically unpopular, close quote. Read one headline on the Drudge Report. Quote, lowest 100-day score in 80 years. Read another, and another 39% approval, quote unquote. The New York Post headline put it this way, quote, President Trump battered by brutal polls that show his approval sinking, including one revealing the lowest rating since World War II, close quote. Go down the list. A New York Times poll had Trump's job approval at 42%. A CBS poll had the number at 45%. A Rasmussen poll had Trump at 47%. An Economist YouGov poll had Trump at 44%. Fox News poll had Trump at 44% as well. So that's not great. But where did they get the lowest rating since World War II thing? Quote unquote. He asked. That came from a Washington Post poll. A Washington Post poll, which, like some others, found Trump at 42% approval among registered voters. But the Washington Post also released a finding showing Trump at 39% among all adults. So this is crucial, because this is the poll that they're using, including those who don't care enough to vote, even in hotly contested elections. That's where this 39% is coming from. So 39%, right? That's the headline. To reach this result, this is how the Washington Post pollsters had to do it. So they surveyed they surveyed 848 people who said they voted for then Vice President Kamala Harris in November, and then they voted 842 people, who said they voted for Trump. So 848 people, this is the survey. These are what the Washington Post pollsters surveyed. 848 people that voted for Kamala Harris, 842 people that voted for President Trump, and then another 729 people, this is important, who said they did not vote. What? Byron York writes, now it seems odd to survey more people who voted for Harris than Trump. Isn't that odd? Isn't that odd? Why would you survey more people that voted for... Gabe, you don't know how good this is that I'm preaching. Why would you survey more people that voted for Kamala Harris than voted for Trump? And then survey people who didn't vote at all. Now, it seems odd to survey, again, more people who voted for Harris than Trump, because you might recall that Trump received more votes than Harris. Presumably, the Washington Post then adjusted the totals to reflect the actual 2024 results, But then there is turnout. In 2024, he writes, Byron York does, it was 64%, the second highest of any presidential election ever. People who did not vote or even register to vote really did not give a damn about the election. The Washington Post included a lot of them in the 39% mark that has gotten the commentators so excited. See, sometimes, and Rush Limbaugh taught us this, what the left will often do is they create polls not to give you a correct accounting, but to create a narrative, to create a story. And again, listen, there's a trend, right? So we can see that Donald Trump's polls have dipped a little bit, particularly when it comes to the economy, because by the time these people start running, congressmen and women start running for office, it's going to be about the economy, stupid. And this is why I'm saying, please, those of you in the Trump administration, let's get these tariff deals worked out. Republicans, get off your freaking butts and make sure you get a bill passed. Legislation with permanent tax cuts. It's time for this economy to soar. Deregulation. Now, we're not dealing with entitlements. That makes things a little harder. There's no doubt about it. But codify the Doge savings into law. This is going to be extremely important. Byron New York writes, put aside your arguments over specific polls. There's no doubt that Trump's job approval numbers have declined. Back in January, after a week in office, Trump's approval stood at 50.5%, and the Real Clear Politics average. Now it's at 45.3%, and the same average for a decline of about 5 points. But this is the reason for a decline. Trump is doing big things that we've not seen done before. And so people are a little queasy. But the good news is, I suspect, just like the economy, his poll numbers will soar momentarily. Guys, until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.